Hi, everybody. It's Zane with Sailing Views. I have Billy Willman. He's a special guest, a very good friend of mine. How you doing, Billy?
Awesome.
All
Good to
right,
see you,
good.
brother.
I'm glad you're doing good. It hadn't been very long since I've talked to you, so I know what you're doing. But let's pass this on to the rest of the people. What are you doing these days?
So currently living in Sarasota, Florida. Beautiful Sarasota, Florida. We've been here for about a year and a half. It's much better than Wisconsin, where I came from.
Yeah, a little less snow and a little less ice, huh?
Yes, so
Yeah.
it's been awesome. So just kind of hanging out right now, doing a little towboat US here in Sarasota. I have a new mantra in life. Some people will know it, some people won't, but I don't always follow in somebody's footsteps. But when I do, they're Freddie Stritz.
All right. Okay, so let's jump into these with what age did you start sailing, and how did that work for you?
So I started sailing at probably one or two or three, very, very young. My father was involved with Palmer Johnson boats, yachts in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, where I grew up.
Yeah,
So he did a lot of sailing and racing and things like that back in the day. So I pretty much was thrown in whether I liked it or not. I didn't really sail a whole lot of small boats. So I grew up kind of almost always on big. I mean, they did the prams and some whatever the next step was above the prams, but then pretty much went right into big boats.
I got you. All right, so who were some of the early influences? I mean, beyond your dad, who I know helped you out, got you going. Who else helped you out? Who got you started?
So my dad's secretary was a big influence. Took me in when I was just a nipper. Actually, she and her sister and her brother built a custom GNS 3/4 tonner,
Uh huh.
and so I got to start on that thing when I was probably I don't know 12, 13 maybe. So I was lucky enough when I started out to be involved with good people and always meeting new people in your circuit. Like I started out sailing on the Bay of Green Bay in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, and so we had a circuit, and you meet new people all the time. So you might sail with one boat for a year or two, and then hey, maybe I might be able to go learn something from these guys, and just
I got
kind
you.
of took my steps up the ladder that way.
Okay. Uh, okay. Well, who inspired you other than D? I mean, who were some of the people you looked up to and really wanted to beat and worked hard to who pushed you?
So, so I started out. There was a sailmaker, a North sailmaker from Pewaukee, Wisconsin, that sailed in our area quite a bit when I was real young, and not a lot of people liked him. He was a pretty good sailor, but he really wasn't such a great guy. And
Yeah.
so even at a young age, when I didn't know anything, I was like, why does this guy have to continually tell us all like what to do and how to do it? Uh, so luckily he kind of went away, and then a couple other guys kind of came up, and there were two guys at the North Sales Loft in Pewaukee that kind of really got me into it as I got a little bit older. And then, like I said, I sailed with a couple of guys, and you'd end up in situations where you're trying to learn, and sometimes the professionals would not be able to answer your questions or do really
Yeah.
any better than you did yourself. So that's kind of how I got into it a little bit. I was doing a race in across Lake Michigan called the Queen's Cup, and we have a lot of wind shear on the lakes, which probably more extreme than most places because of the temperature differences. So uh, anyway, my defining moment was trying to trim the kite at night and light air, but crazy wind shear. So the bottom of the kite looks beautiful, and you look up at the top, and the top half is blown back into the rig. And so I said, "Hey, Mr. Sailmaker, like, what's going on here, man?" And
Yeah.
he couldn't really do any better than I could. So I was, hey, maybe I'll give the sailmaking thing a try. So got into that, and just I don't really necessarily know if there was one person. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just always being around good people, and then trying to learn and get better. And then as you jump up a rung, you're sailing with better people, so you're still learning.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what
you
it
were
is.
always pushing it. All right. Well, you mentioned North Sails and that you used to do that. How did you enjoy sail making? Was that something you liked doing? Did you do it a long time? How
Yeah,
about your sail making?
sailmaking was pretty awesome when I got into it. I think I was at the very tail end of the art and science of it, and probably at the time I was doing it, more art involved in it. And right at the end of my career, kind of was the transition to where it became more just a product that was sold by salesmen. So
Yeah.
I learned from this guy named Tom Pease from Pewaukee, and probably one of the last great genuine artists of a sailmaker. So we were the guys that fixed the stuff that nobody else wanted to fix.
I got you.
So yeah, I love doing it, and again, another great way to get out there and sail with people that you didn't know on different boats that you probably normally wouldn't have sailed on.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it was great.
Okay. So what's your favorite boat, and why is it your favorite boat?
All right, there's one answer to that question: the Mighty Peerless.
Go the Peerless.
GTFP, as we say, go the freaking Peerless.
Yeah, and that's a heavily modified Melgis 30, correct?
Correct. It was an original Melgus 30 with an inboard engine and running backstays and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
boats kind of went by the wayside. And when the 32s developed, they took a couple of the 30s and modified them heavily to kind of use as the prototypes for their 32. So the Peerless was a little bit stronger boat all the way around, heavier rig, 2.5 foot longer sprit.
Yeah.
So really, really powered up, really fun boat to sail in light air and heavy air.
Yeah. I sailed on Tiburon, one of the Melgis 30s, a couple times, and it had the articulating sprit and running backs and all kind of fun stuff. I really love the boats, unless you're in the middle of Key West, surrounded by other boats, and all of a sudden you jibe and it catches a knot in the runner or something. Then you're not really enjoying the 30 at that moment. But
oh, you're definitely not. We've had a few times. The nice thing is they're so little that they just kind of tip over.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of stays up. Most of the time, stays on top of the water. Every once in a while, you might do that shrimping thing, and
Yeah.
things when you got the big gear up and you do the shrimp, things don't really work out that great. But for the most part, it's a pretty awesome boat.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite place to sail?
Favorite place to sail? Wow. All over the place. We have so coming from the north, Midwest, obviously getting down south anywhere during the winter season is awesome. So the Caribbean, I got to do the BVI regatta, the Rolex regatta a couple times, St. Thomas. So those places were excellent to go. Key West, obviously, for many, many years. Any way to escape Wisconsin in the winter, definitely worth it. But to be able to go down to Key West and go sailing for a week in January was pretty spectacular for a lot of years.
Oh, trust me, I know. All right. Now I'm going to change up my questions a little bit. What's one of the biggest collisions have you ever been involved in any big collisions or any big damage on the water?
Where'd you pull that one from?
Well, I need to change up the questionnaire a little bit. Now, don't use any names, but describe it for me.
So you try not to crash.
Yes.
All the time. You try not to crash, but occasionally it happens.
Yeah.
So we were in Key West one year on a very large boat. Like probably the largest boats that were ever in Key West. And there just happened to be two of them that were the same. And one time we were on a port tack, and the other guy was on the starboard tack, and I was actually sitting on the rail. And so we had no idea. All you just heard was this gigantic bang, and it was it was not good. It was not a very fun moment. Luckily, the other boat was in the end okay, although we almost literally cut that boat in half.
Yeah.
So I was actually pretty freaked out, and the program that I was with at the time was kind enough to donate our program to them to continue sailing for the rest of race week. I was pretty freaked out, so I actually had a bunch of cocktails and got in the car and drove home the next day.
Yeah, I think I stuck around for that one. That was a heck of a collision.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so where do you see the sport of sailing going in the future?
Sport of sailing in the future. Well, hopefully we can grow it a little bit. We have a little problem going on right now with participation and activity, and I'm not really sure what the solution to it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it's occurring. I don't know if people just don't have time. I don't know if people have just found the thrill is gone. But hopefully we can do something to even in just small steps just to get some participation going.
Yeah. Um, I've been asking the same, or a lot of people the same question, and no one really has an answer. Basically, everybody says make it fun, and I don't know if that just needs to be more shore side activities or mixing up the race course instead of doing windward lure to do more long distance. And I know down here we've been trying a little bit of everything, but it seems like every chance we get to move forward, we get hit with a hurricane. It knocks out half the boats, and it just takes a while to recover. Um,
And I think it's just important to get new people into it,
yeah,
and I don't know how to keep them in, and kids, like the kids start out taking lessons when they're young, and then they kind of just disappear when they go to college and after college.
yeah,
But I think it's important. Like people would always ask, how do I get involved in sailing? And my response was always like, it's pretty easy to get involved. All you got to do is show up with a 6-pack of beer and say, hey, I'd like to go sailing, and somebody's
yeah,
going to take you with. But I guess that said, there are also, when you get into the better levels, they might have the regular crew and they might not be so willing to take new people with. So that
right,
might be something that needs to be addressed as well, because you realistically can't, people aren't going to get any better when they're sailing with people that aren't very good to begin with.
true,
So,
very true. All right, what's one of your best trips you've had? It could be a delivery, it could be a regatta, whatever. What's one of your best trips?
best trips. Well, I've had a lot of really nice deliveries being out there by myself. So that said, though, the most fun times are when you're sailing with your peeps.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter whether it's racing or delivering or whatever. Those are the best trips. Um, I think it's funny because in my opinion, the good trips kind of all meld together, and it's obviously the ones that aren't so much fun that that you always seem to remember and come to mind the easiest. So I could throw that one at you real quick. I've done a couple of those ARC things across the Atlantic from the Canaries to St. Lucia. A couple of years ago, this buddy of mine got me hooked up on a 42-foot something or another that was built in Italy, and I mean, you probably really shouldn't even sail from Chicago to Mackinac on a 42-foot boat,
yeah.
but you certainly should not sail across the ocean on one, especially when you're involved with a bunch of people that you don't really know. So that was 22 days of not a whole lot of fun. So, but good experiences. I'll tell you, one of the most awesome racing experiences that I ever had was just myself and two friends, Brian Torreson, Lori Poppin, Melgus kids from over in Muskegon, Michigan. We decided to do this Queen's Cup race, which is 65, 70 miles across Lake Michigan. So we were supposed to do it with 4 people. The 4th guy bailed, and it was going to be super light air. Long story short, the 3 of us just sailed the thing across the lake, just drinking beer, having fun, telling stories, but really sailing the boat. And we got some sort of crazy shift in the middle of the night. we ended up a little far away from our competition, so we had jived back to kind of get back in touch with them, and we got this shift that I don't think anybody else in the fleet got, and literally all of a sudden at sunup, when it started to become a little more waterline reachy, these like 50 footers were all kind of behind us, and so we actually ended up being the 12th boat to finish on the August 24. And the WingQuest, the Maxi 86, only beat us in by like an hour and a half or something like that. So,
Oh, yeah, you crushed him on time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they always just do touch and goes. They drop their people off. So we were actually motoring in when they were going back home, and all the dudes on the boat were like giving us a big like.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
yeah.
But that was just a great night that you probably tell your grandkids about.
Yeah, and I know you've done a lot of 70-foot sailing. You've been on just about every 70-footer up there. You got any good experiences with that? You've done just, what, like 30 Chicago Mackinac races or something? I mean, you've done a lot.
Yeah, so. I think like 31 or 32, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And like 15 or 16 Port Hurons. Anyway, there's people that have done more, but we had a lot of fun on the 70s that kind of migrated from California to the lakes. We had, I think, at one point maybe 14 or 15 of them racing against each other.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And I did get the opportunity to sail on almost all of them. Yeah. So a lot of fun, and just handfuls of memories. Like it's always funny because as a trimmer, I don't remember that much about the races. Like we have like tactical people that can almost like play that whole race back in their mind, and they can say, hey, I was here at this point and that point. Like I never know where we're at or what we're doing. I'm just trying to make the boat go fast.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so obviously you're a trimmer. I mean, I know that. I'm not sure. I'm sure a lot of other people do. Is that your best role and your best job on a boat?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I love doing it. I'm actually the crusher of the watch schedule. I really don't like being on a watch schedule because I like sailing at night. I like doing it at night, and honestly, there are not many people out there that can do it better at night. So, if I had my way, I'd trim from sundown to sun up, let everybody else sleep, and then I can kind of chill out during the daytime. But it's fun, especially in the light air on the lakes. When you really got to be dialed in, it's a pretty awesome thing if you get a good driver, and how it is. You get those times when you just get in the groove, and between yourself and the driver, just kind of the communication is really awesome, and keeping the boat going and just doing it.
I gotcha. I know that good feeling. It's definitely when you're in the groove, it's great. All right, so do you consider yourself aggressive, conservative? How do you look at sailing? In terms of that, style, I guess.
I would say full on aggressive. There's no reason to not be, because nobody ever remembers who got second. Nobody ever really remembers who wins even. So obviously you want to win, so you get all that stuff like you have on your mantle back there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. That's a pile of pickle dishes I've got.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No. So you just we always hit it hard, and especially, I guess it's different because I've done mostly handicap racing, so obviously you can definitely be way more aggressive handicap racing than you can when you're doing the one design stuff. But
I find I kind of see a little opposite, but then again, the area I'm racing against in PHRF, I take it a little more conservative tactically and bow handling wise, because I can slow down and look at the bigger picture, a little better. When I'm more one design and you're literally surrounded, by everybody, I find I have to be a lot more aggressive because I can't get away from them. And so, for me, I get aggressively and just everybody get away, So I'm crazy aggressive in that matter. Just everybody leave me alone, let me do my thing, and then I can go. So I don't know. I mean, everybody's got different styles, different ways of looking at it. All right, let's see here. What's one of the best maneuvers you've pulled off or been involved with? Just a great start, a great mark rounding, a great leg, something like that.
Well, great starts are definitely critical.
Always.
So we've all had. I'm sure there's not one specifically that pops in my head, but we've all port tagged the fleet once or twice where it actually worked. So
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome when you can pull that off. But I think like the most memorable stuff was always probably on the 70s in the Mac races where it was crazy because you sail like 335 miles, give or take, and these boats would be, you'd be within seconds of each other, literally, you know what I mean? So every minute, every second, every maneuver counts. So, and I think distance racing has changed, and now the Mac race isn't even really considered a distance race so much anymore because the boats are so fast. But I think it's just always important to rest. If you're off watch, even if you're not sleeping. I was involved in one program where it didn't matter what you did when you were off watch, but you had to be down like in your bunk resting up. And so we pulled off a couple of really awesome maneuvers towards the end of those races where we were on it and the other guys weren't. And so those, being well rested allowed us to pull those maneuvers off, So we had one year we went down the straits, just jiving back and forth in light air with the Pied Piper, and we were on the Cynosure, and there were probably 14 or 15 passes, and luckily we got them in the end, and it was probably a matter of a minute or two. And I just remember those guys, like, they were almost in tears afterwards. And they're like, man, we tried so hard and we didn't win. And we just looked at them. I was like, what do you think we were there for? Or was it a garden party or something? So, you know what I mean? We were sailing just as hard to beat them, whatever. So
yeah, you're sitting in the back drinking tea and eating crumpets, just letting them play on through.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, this is great.
Uh-huh.
So we had one. Then one of the other really cool, memorable ones was in the Wayback Machine. There was a 80-foot Holland Maxi up there, and so the thing used to always be in contention for line honors actually most of the time. So one year the thing was several miles ahead of us, and we went around the mark, and it was blowing pretty hard, and things were kind of right on the edge, and we came up with the saying that dinosaurs don't surf. So we came roaring up, and that was actually so it would have been 1992, and we were actually first to finish, first in section, and first overall. So
nice.
That doesn't happen too often. Even no matter how many of those things you do, it's pretty hard to pull that off. So
yeah, yes, it is. All right, what's your favorite program you've been involved with? I know you've done obviously a ton of big boats. Which one's your favorite?
Ooh, so my favorite. It's I'm not even sure you could say one for sure. There's different aspects of all of them, right? Back in the day when you used to get flown around to regattas and things like that was pretty nice. Fun boats to sail. I don't know, the Decision program from New Orleans where I met you. Those guys have been pretty good to us over the years. We've sailed on a bunch of different boats. Starting out on Santa Cruz 52, Andrew 70, Carkeek 40. So the Murrays, give them a big shout out to the Murrays. I don't know, man. I got sailing a lot of cool boats. The Nightmare, Tom Neal, Bill Alcott, Equation, Terry Kohler.
Yeah, I love Bill. I was very sad about his passing. I don't know. He and I have run into each other a lot over the years with his Equation boat and other people I've known. He was a great guy. So
he was great. I'll tell you, it's kind of weird because he was kind of the most recent guy to go, and it's like, man, it was such a privilege to be involved with all those guys. Starting out in probably the early 90s. I mean, man, Dick Jennings, Bill Martin. I mean, you can just go down the list. All those guys, just in their own right, in the end, just all pretty decent guys for the most part.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, let's change the subject to something a little bit lighter, a little bit faster. Let's go to America's Cup. What do you think about it with the new foiling boats and the technology? You love it? You hate it? Would you rather have them doing dial-ups and beating each other up, or what are your thoughts?
So I think that from the technology aspect, it's pretty cool. It's not really. It doesn't seem like sailing too much to me. And from our perspective, I mean, it's great. We all, you know what I mean. I think we've all been lucky enough, or not all of us, but a lot of us, to sail on, the Melgus 24s, the Melgus 32s, the TP 52s. The boats that can definitely haul the mail. I myself have not foiled personally. I'm sure it's probably pretty cool, but the races really aren't that interesting. I don't think personally. It's kind of fun to watch them go fast, but most of the time they're not really any lead changes. You know, I don't know. Good on the guys that are doing it, and good for them and pushing the envelope. So I'm definitely I'm a little more interested in like the ocean race, Volvo race, Whitbread race, whatever you want to call it.
They call it the ocean race now, I think. Yeah.
Race. So it'd be cool actually having a couple different variations this year with the 60s against the 65s and the Amoka 60s and the foiling things that they got going nowadays, and like I said, see if those things can hold together and see if the people can hold together going that fast.
Yeah.
The nice thing about going that fast is that it shortens the time that you're out there so much. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a trade-off, right? You think, well, man, I don't want to go to Mackinac on a 30-footer, but the 30-footer can get there almost as fast as a 70-footer, so you might as well do it. So same thing with these boats that go so fast. They're out there a lot less time, so in theory they have to hold together a little bit less for less time. So.
Yeah. Well, I know technology has changed a lot. Boats aren't quite what they were 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, but like I said, we will see. All right, on to the next one. Let's see here. What are your future plans in sailing, or do you have any, thoughts and ideas?
I'm gonna come see you with some of those fishing poles, brother.
Ah, there you go, fishing. Now that's a subject you and my dad can sit around with for days. He's been off fishing pretty much every day for the last 2 weeks, and he'll come home for a day or two, clean some fish, bug me a little bit, goes back fishing. So,
Awesome. I don't know. I did go back up to the lakes last summer to work on a boat. So this will be my first summer here in Florida. So we'll see what happens if those boats actually ever leave the Sarasota Sailing Squadron. It looks like a pretty cool facility. I've been over there a couple of times, and I'm out on the water quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't see a whole lot of boats sailing, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know. It's got a buddy that purchased the Peerless. The Peerless got sold and ended up in Lake Superior for a little bit, and got a buddy that saved it from ending up in a cornfield up in the Great White North there somewhere. So he's out of Sheboygan. So talking about maybe doing a little bit of stuff with that boat, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right.
Anybody needs a trimmer?
Yeah, give you a call. I'll definitely send me your email. We'll put it at the bottom of the link and
there you go.
See if you get any hits. All right.
Ride needed.
Yeah. All right. Where do you see the state of women sailing? I mean, do you like them sailing with men, against men, or in their own division? Or, what are your thoughts on the whole women sailing aspect of it?
You have to have women sailing with you all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to grow up sailing with women on my crew. I also do remember, as a nipper, boats that did not allow women on board. That never really made much sense to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. Some of the all women programs that have been going on and kind of doing it to show that they can do it. They can do it probably as well, if not better, right? There's no reason other than the only difference is in the big races, the offshore stuff. Obviously physically it's a little bit more demanding, but start with whatever, Maiden, Dawn Riley, and Tracy Edwards, and kind of lighten the torch. I'm sure there were people before them, and I mean, I was lucky enough to know a couple of younger kids growing up, the Kent sisters from Milwaukee. So we have they start out double handing at J30 in the Queen's Cup when they were like 12,
Yeah.
And it's so awesome. So Allison is now working for Doyle down in New Zealand, and her sister Whitney is running the sailing program in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So it's awesome. I love sailing with women. I think it'd be great to get more women out there doing it.
I totally agree. I think that's a future base that sailing in general just needs to really dive into and take care of. All right. So what kind of ideas do you have on growing the sport of sailing? I know you try to make it fun and get people involved, but you got any ideas on how we can do that?
So, again, I'm not sure that there's a direct answer for that, but in my humble opinion, the biggest thing that's missing nowadays is the friendship and the camaraderie. And I think what's happened is that, and I'm not sure how this transition was made, but people nowadays think that it's a great thing to just kind of hang out as a crew and hang out together, and instead of like everybody getting together, get the boat put away as quickly as you can, get all your stuff sorted, and get over to the yacht club and hang out at the post-race festivities. It's more kind of about, well, hey, let's sit down and debrief today about what we could have done better and how can we get better. And then the debrief ends up running for an hour and a half, and then by the time you get the boat put away, it's dinner time. Yeah. And instead of going to have a couple of beers over at the yacht club with all the other boats, you and your team go to the owner's house or go to the restaurant and do your thing. So it seems like what's happened is that this big melding pot that was there when I was growing up has now kind of just become all these little divisions, and everybody kind of goes off and does their own thing, and it doesn't seem like many people hang out and participate in the festivities anymore. And I'm not saying that, obviously people don't drink like they did 20, 30 years ago, so you don't need to have that aspect of it, but man, that was the great part about it, and becoming better was meeting all these people that you sailed against, and then all of a sudden, hey man, like I've seen you around a little bit, and you start talking to those guys, and the guy says, well, hey, I need somebody for this regatta over in Michigan next weekend, and you say, hey, sign me up, and so that's that. I think a lot of that has disappeared, so we need to figure out how to get that part of it back.
Yeah, in the early days of Key West, the late 80s, early 90s, I know that was just such a large melting pot of everybody. And like I said, it became sort of in the late 90s where everybody started, they get their team gear, they go to the dinner with the owner, and all of a sudden, you scatter. And I don't know if that's, directly correlated to professional sailing or just even amateurs trying to, be more professional. I'm not sure where it all came to be that way, but it's an obvious thing. I know I'm not that way at all. Trust me, I'm the stay late, be at the drink tent, hang around with as many new people as I can meet, and everybody looks at me like I'm a nut. They're like, "What are you doing? You go to bed, something like that." And I'm meeting people, talking, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because I think what happened is early on, when we started out, we used to race the J29. We would literally sail with a case of Mount Gay rum on the boat. A case, not a bottle or two, but a case.
Yeah.
Right?
I haven't done that yet, but okay.
But then all of a sudden, you might not be as good as the guy next to you. So then you got to start going a little earlier. But then what happens is everybody starts getting better and better and better. So that's part of it as well, is like, you don't have time. You got to be home and go to sleep at a reasonable hour so that you can go up and compete against the guy next to you that did the same thing. So
yeah,
it's I don't know how to do it or
it's like the competition has driven it to, it's all about the competition and the result, right. Not as much about the experience and the fun factor.
Exactly.
And I don't know how we make it different unless we just start giving out mid-fleet awards are bigger than their trophies, or we come up with some oddball way to do it. Reward the people in the back more than you do the ones in the front. I don't know. It's got to be something.
You get a scoring penalty if you don't show up at the rum tent afterwards.
Right. Exactly. All right. So with all that being said, what's your best advice to new sailors or new boaters or just people that are completely new?
Show up with a 12-pack of beer, raise your hand. In my opinion, the other interesting thing about newbies into the sport is that because everybody needs people crew-wise, right? A newbie that comes in is like just gets eaten alive by every single boat saying, "Come sail with me, come sail with me, come sail with me," right? So then, so what I try to tell people is I'm like, please don't commit to that first boat that you go sailing on. You know what I mean? Or even the second boat or the third boat. Go sail with like a handful of different people first.
Yeah.
And so that you get an experience. Because again, some people are better than others. Some people are better teachers than others. Some people are just better people than others, obviously. So, you know what I mean? So
wait, you're talking to me. I'm better. Yeah, I'm a nicer guy.
It seems like no matter how much you relay that to people, like they always end up sailing with the first boat that they go on.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big thing for me because, again, the other thing that I find interesting is that there should be some way of trying to bring everybody up. You know what I mean? Because I think the other thing that happens is there's different levels of talent, but if the newbies all end up sailing on boats with people that are at the lower end of the talent spectrum, then the whole overall thing doesn't ever grow either. You know what I mean? Because you have people that don't know teaching people that don't know.
Yeah.
So that's something that somehow needs to be looked at. So I'll throw a shout out to my good buddy Nick Hayes. You need to give him a call. He actually wrote a book called Saving Sailing.
Yeah.
And,
if it's about saving sailing, that's definitely someone I need to talk to then.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Hey, okay, well, with that, what else do you have to add? Yeah, you've heard all the questions. Anything you want to throw out there while I've got you on the tube here?
No, man, I think you did a pretty good job of pretty good variety of questions. I think hopefully we didn't get stuck too deep in any of those stories.
No, our timing is pretty good. We're at 40 minutes, so we're doing all right, roughly around there.
You know me, man. When the stories start rolling,
yeah, that's good for everybody, though. I think one of the challenges I'm having with this is not talking very much, which you know me very well, and you know that's hard for me to do.
It's hard. It's hard, man.
Okay, well, with that said, everybody, I'm Zane. This is Sailing Views. I want to thank Bill Willman for showing up and doing this. Great sailor, great trimmer, just an excellent all-around super nice guy. Big boat captain. I know he's doing a lot of big boat deliveries, so if you need a delivery skipper or just someone to run your program and teach you how to do it correctly, this is the guy. So
go vote.
Go vote. All right.
Go vote.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to cut us out of here. Okay, everybody. Sailing Views. Like, subscribe. Please subscribe. I need subscribers. All right. Over. Out. Bye-bye.